Sonic Adventure 308, not coaching 3 degrees. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Kids today. And only today, we are here to talk a little bit of, depending on who you ask, a sadder topic or a more exciting one, depending on how you want to look at it. But this is an interview that Iizuka just said, and I thought the point that he talked about was really interesting. So without further ado, let's kind of get into it. And of course, as always, guys, we are right at the end of our 30-day upload challenge. We are at over 70K subscribers. Thank you for all the love and support on the channel. Y'all have gone crazy, and let's just keep going. So this is an interview that was held with Game Shack over here. Let's go ahead and read what's going on in this article. If you are holding on hopes for Sega to remake Sonic Adventure 1 or 2, it might be best to let that dream die. According to the head of Sonic team, there are no plans to revisit the 20-year-old titles. Damn, that's such a crazy hit, considering, how many times Iizuka, this is really different than usual, because we've, for a long time, have, heard in interviews that, he wants to do it, they'll do it, when they're ready, but it's always felt like, there's been a glimmer of us, but this is, the first time it kind of feels clear-cut not getting that. But let's read a little bit more into this. So, in an interview with Shack News, Takashi Iizuka said that the team is focused on future games in the franchise. That's because he said, despite the interest, it would take a lot more effort to remake the games that they feel time would be best spent elsewhere. Let's hear exactly what he had to say. I do hear that a lot, Iizuka said of requests for remakes. I really am appreciative of everyone who likes Sonic Adventure series, but when I think about what it would take to bring that game up to the standards and expectations of what the modern gaming audience would want, I think it would be about as much time and energy as it would to make a new title. So part of me is thinking maybe I should just make a brand new title, and that's why we currently have no plans. So yeah, that's the statement right here. And damn, bro, what a, not necessarily again, this is why I want to make this video. I thought this should be a good topic point, right? I feel like this is something that you would hear and go oh, but if you really think about it, this kind of confirms and deconfirms some things, right? Because he says here, I'm appreciative of everyone who likes the Sonic Adventure series. So he's not just talking about one, he's talking about two, right? But when I think about what it would take to bring that game up to the standards and expectations of what the modern gaming audience would want, I think it would be as much time spent, energy, as it would making a new title. Because, yeah, let's face it, right? I think adventure games are so much different than your typical 3D platformers, right? Most platformers are pretty straightforward, you just kind of go from point A to point B. When you think of remaking Crash, right? The Crash Insane Trilogy or Spyro, it really is just, hey, let's fresh coat of paint it, and and that's it, right? Whereas with Sonic, there's these stories, right? There's these big, cutscenes. There's these big areas. You think of especially Sonic Adventure 1, with how big some of the areas could be. You think of a Station Square or the Mystic Ruins. These are locations that in an old game can get away with being 3 screens big, right? But in a new game, right, you can't have Station Square be a 3 square block area, right? You would need that to look and feel like a big world, right? I don't think that's something that they'd even want to keep to something small scale. It's something they have a task that, like they said, when they're currently in the middle of building these open zone games, right, that we're falling in love with and we're getting used to. Again, let's think about this realistically. We're not even really 2 open zone games in, right? We technically have Frontiers, and I guess you could say, they've been working on it more with Final Horizon and Shadow Gens. You could tell the ideas, fleshing out, getting a little bit more better, right? Even with the way they're structured, how the missions are, I feel like Shadow Gens is a bit of a preview of how it might be handled in the next game, but it is still a formula that's being fleshed out, So there's 2 points to that. One, right, on one note, it would be weird to go backwards right now when we're in the middle of fleshing out a new idea, right? This is something that is still exciting to Sonic Team to visit, and have fun with. I feel like right now doing a adventure remake in the middle of what feels like their resurgence and their come up of something new and exciting would feel like regressing almost. I feel like that's something you want to do when you feel like you finished accomplishing something. You're I want to revisit this, right? But I think right now we're in a period of Sonic where revisiting is the least thing they want to do, and I feel like they want to chart new territories and try new exciting things, especially because the series is at such a pivotal height, and like I said, this almost lends more credence to the rumors of Sonic Heroes, right? Why do I say that? Well, I think you guys all know this. Sonic Heroes of all the games would probably be the least intensive to work on, at least on a story basis. You know, the story cutscenes are pretty minimal in the game. You know, there's not that many, right? There's not that many things going on. Like, I feel like it's something that they could potentially just, you know, just do the level, sort of Crash Insane Trilogy style or Spyro style, where really all they have to do for Heroes is fix up the physics, give it a brand new coat of paint, you know, fix a few of the cutscenes, and boom, like, you're done, right? Whereas I really do think, and you guys, you know, maybe could disagree or not, but I think adventure games, like, think about it. With Adventure 1 especially, you effectively have to build 6 character campaigns, right? And obviously their lengths and, you know, qualities are vastly different, right? But like, you would have to vastly change how those play. You know, I don't think you would make Tails' story the exact same as Sonic. You know, you'd want to have his own collectibles and areas. You'd think, especially for the Knuckles missions, you want to expand those areas to find, you know, the Master Emerald pieces, you know, or the Chaos Emerald pieces, whichever. You know, with Big's fishing minigame, they'd have to entirely revamp that. Like Omega's storyline, maybe you'd want to flesh it out, have more missions to do. Like, you are effectively working with multiple games worth of ideas and mechanics and stuff for that game. Now, there's the other side, right, where I'm sure fans feel like, well, I don't want a remake to be something crazy fleshed out. I want that game. And I think that's what Sonic Team is kind of struggling with idea-wise, is I think what Sonic Team and Iizuka specifically wants to do is build something entirely new. Like, I mean, if we go back to what he's saying here again, he says, like, right here, you know, and when I think about what it would take to bring that game up to standards and expectations of what the modern gaming audience would want, I think it would be as much time and energy as it would making a new title. So part of me is thinking maybe I should just make a brand new title, and that's why there are currently no plans. It's something that, again, like, if they're gonna work that hard on a game, I think they just right now want to focus on potentially a trilogy. Like, my theory, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, or of course let me know your thoughts in the comments. I always love hearing them. My theory is that they want to at least do a trilogy of this new open zone formula and then revisit Adventure, right? And that's why there's these rumors of Heroes in the middle, because I think Heroes is a perfect middle ground game of something where you can experiment with a remake, with something that wouldn't take as much effort, right? Because again, like I said, Adventure 1 and 2, with all the cinematics, the different character cutscenes, you know, some of the open areas in Sonic Adventure 1, those open areas like Mystic Ruins and all those are pretty small. Effectively, if they were to remake those games to the modern standard, I feel like at that point you're making an open zone, right? You're going to make an open zone with a bunch of activities to do, with a bunch of cool things to do. Now, Adventure 2 is one they could kind of get away with, but I do feel like Adventure 2 also has that thing where people hold that to such a high standard that I think you would want to make, for example, the Sonic versus Shadow fight an epic grand scale fight, you know, with a more intense feature. You know, you'd want to make maybe the Tails levels actual upgrades for, you know, the mech that work really well. You'd want to flesh out the Knuckles areas. Like, I think these are games that are now at the point where they are way too legendary and important to the fans that they could just get away with, you know, doing just a simple thing, like, again, a simple remake in a way of like a Crash Insane Trilogy. When I think of these games getting remade, and you guys could tell me how you would like it, I think the most of Resident Evil 2 Remake. Less FF7. I know some people's mind would go to FF7, but I think something like an FF7 remake is too much. You know, I don't want these games to be split up in parts and all of this stuff. I think like RE2 Remake, like Resident Evil 2 Remake, is like the perfect middle ground of like, all right, you took what was here, you built over it, you made it one experience, you expanded on some ideas, but it really is the original thing you remember, but modernized with modern takes and modern styles. Like, I think that really is the best way I would describe or even want an Adventure 1 and 2 remake. And maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe you guys would feel like an Adventure 1 and 2 remake could be something grandiose and large, because those stories, the more you think about them, are pretty grandiose and large. You know, at this point, I feel like you could make Team Sonic's storyline in Sonic Adventure 2 like its own game, as much as you could Team Dark its own game, if you really wanted to flesh out that world and those characters. And it's also crazy to think about how, like, with Sonic, that is one of the few series that, like, is pretty iconic, that doesn't have any 3D game remakes. I mean, the most we have are, some of the HD ports that have come to other consoles. We have yet to really have our first remake. And again, there's the rumors of Heroes going on. But I would say, like, on another flip side, I do think and would hope that we at least get some basic remaster for the adventure games. Like, I feel like it is, if you, like, this is kind of crazy. Now, I'm going to put some in perspective for you, right? We haven't had a native console port, or a way to play those games besides on Xbox and PC in like 17 years. I'm not even exaggerating, guys. Like, I want you to put that in perspective. Unless you have an Xbox or PC, the last time Sonic Adventure 2 and 1 were ported to a console was the PS3 era. On Xbox, they're backwards compatible, but it's like on PlayStation, they're not. They're on like that streaming service PS Now, which is ass, but it's like we don't have a native way to play adventure games. We didn't have them on Wii U. We didn't have a native way to play them on Switch 1. We didn't have them all the way through PS4, and now we're halfway through PS5's life without it. Like, I do think there's a little bit of that ridiculous aspect of like, come on, can we please at least get these games in, new, because like there are potentially people that have literally, dude, I want you to put this in perspective. There are potentially people that were literally born in the mid 2000s that have not had a proper opportunity to play the adventure games. Like, I really want you to put that in perspective. Someone that was born in 2006, or like, 2010, maybe is like, a teenager now, 16, 17, right? Or 2008, whatever. And like, they just have no way to play these games unless they have a PC or an old console, which again, you can get these things. And even then, right, people talk a lot of shit about those ports. I know to a lot of, average people, those ports work well, but those PC ports are very shoddy. And so at the bare minimum, some HD re-release of them, or even just, a Dreamcast online or something, the way Nintendo does Nintendo Switch Online, so you can at least have these games accessible on your console would be like really nice, and they don't even have to do anything crazy. Just do stuff like maybe some rewind features, right? Infinite lives, because some of those games can be difficult for some people. Maybe a hint system, because I know like Adventure 1, like sometimes finding like the little crystals or where to go can be difficult for some newer fans that get into these games. Like, I feel like just little stuff like that could really help, and flesh out these games, give some artwork. People love seeing that kind of stuff. But yeah, like, I think it is, look, the adventure games are so important to the fans. I think Iizuka knows that, right? And, he's been asked this question about whether adventure remakes are going to happen. He's been asked this for like over a decade. I mean, how many videos have I made about when he's mentioned it? How many people have you seen talk about it in articles? And even he clearly flip-flops, right? There's times where he's just like, I'm going to do it when I have a grand idea. I want to make an Adventure 3. I want to do a Child Garden. Like, these are things I think Iizuka knows he wants to do and the team at Sonic want to do. But I think it is most important that first and foremost that they flesh out and finish what they're doing with, the boost, the open zone format. I mean, finish if they want to keep going with it, by all means. But I think right now they have a mission and they're really trying to build these new experiences and things that people, the way we grew up with adventure games will grow up with these. I mean, I'm telling you, Frontiers is someone's Sonic Adventure, right? For a lot of people, that was the moment they experienced Super Sonic. That was the moment they got to play as the gang, whether it's in DLC, that was, their first moment learning about these characters. Like, it's a game that means something to a lot of people. Now, every game can be someone's first, but this is the start of something really new and something really fresh. And I think first and foremost, before we get anything, it is important for them to finish that. Now, on another flip side, there are exterior devs. You can, give those games to another publisher or, another dev team to work on them and make them. And, they can work in tandem with them to make sure those games are handled right. But I think that's why we might be getting Heroes first, because I think Heroes is the one, like I said, that you really, I really think Heroes just needs tweaking in terms of its physics, its graphics, and then you're kind of good. I mean, you can maybe simplify the path to getting the final story, right? But I really think you're good on Sonic Heroes. I don't think it would be that much of a crazy undertaking, especially because they remake half those levels anyway, like, their Bingo Highways or, their Emerald Coast. Obviously, we have a few other areas. Rail Canyon has its assets already used for Sonic, what's it called? For Shadow Generations. Like, they kind of got already like half the stuff they need. You could even use, you know, the assets from Frontiers, foresty like areas for Green Forest. Like they've kind of got a lot of stuff already there that they can do. I'm just saying. So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it because the interview really got me thinking of like, damn. And a most selfish note, of course I want Adventure Remakes and I want to see them as much as you. And of course, there is the fabled Sonic Adventure 3. And I don't know how you guys feel, but like Sonic Adventure 3 feels impossible. It feels like something like a Half-Life 3. It's a number that feels like it would have too much weight, too much expectations. But I have this gut feeling we will live to see it as long as Sonic Team continues to thrive. I think once we get 2 more main, you know, open zone games and they're really in their bag, I think they'll revisit adventure games. If those adventure remakes do super well, I think then at that point you can get an Adventure 3. And I would want Adventure 3 to do the same thing the adventure games did for us, right? Which is introduce new characters that people are going to fall in love with, have these different gameplay styles, have a story that really matters. And I think that's what I want from Adventure 3. I wouldn't want it to just be the same. I want like, hey, show me, you know, like the way Rouge came out of nowhere in our lives, you know, and Shadow, right? It's like, give me something like that, right? The same way when I played Adventure, you know, suddenly, you know, Gamma is in my life, you know? So like, I really want that feeling, or even Big the Cat. It's like, I want that sense of like, hey, here's new characters and they're going to be something really important to us in the future. But we'll get to that when we get to that someday. But of course, for now, guys, let me know what you all thought about what Iizuka had to say about Adventure Remakes. Like, what do you guys think? What Sonic games would you like to see get remade? Do you just want remasters? Do you not care about the past and just want new? Let me know, of course, in the comment section below. I love you guys. Thank y'all for watching. Of course, I will see you all next time. Peace out.